Hi everyone, this is Crystal, and today I am back with week 6 in my creativity journal. As you can see, I already have my template ready to go. This is from Retro Hip Co. And I have my photos and a little bit of ephemera ready to go as well. For supplies, I'm using just some random things from my Citrus Twist Kit stash. So I actually have this container. So when I'm done with a kit, when I'm no longer using the kit as a kit, I put it in this container and divide it up by cards and chipboard, and all the die cuts are in front, all of the papers that I have left over. And this is from several years of getting kits from Citrus Twist. And then I have this little pouch in back that is full of scraps. So I mostly went through this to pull things and then pulled some embellishments and a few cards as well as some ephemera. So I've already done that. This is just what is left over. And I have the things that I've pulled right here. So I did also grab an alpha. The one thing I don't keep in that same container are the alphas. I have a separate spot for those. And the stamps, I keep those separately as well. But everything else I keep in there. I was able to find all of this, and I actually found another set of puffy hearts that I thought I had used up, but I actually had stashed them in with a kit that I still needed to break down. So I found those, so I'm happy to be able to use those. I have just a bunch of scraps of papers, and I have a little container here of some ephemera. So that's what I'm going to be using for this spread. I do also have the stamps from last month. These were still just sitting out, so I thought I might as well try and use these rather than dig through my other stamps. And I think that's it. So I'm just going to put you on fast forward and get started. So I'm going to start by placing down my photos on the days that they were taken, but then I realized that most of them were taken on the same day. So I had a very productive day this week, and that's when most of these photos were actually taken. So in order to give myself some space to tell the story for each photo, I'm going to separate them. So I'm going to move them around, and it doesn't bother me to do that because I know they were all taken this week. It's all around the same time period. That's really all I'm after. It doesn't bother me to have them under a day when they weren't actually taken. So as long as I have space to tell the story for each one, that's all that really matters. Okay, so now I'm going through some of the supplies. I want to make this a very colorful, very kind of rainbow colored spread. So I'm trying to get all of these colors on there, which is why I started with that rainbow paper off to the left-hand side. I'm thinking I'm going to use that to fill that bottom box. And then I'm just trying to spread all of those colors around the 2 pages. So I was thinking about creating a bunch of layers behind my Citrus Twist Kit DT photo and making that kind of a feature on this page because I do want to make it a feature in some way. So I thought maybe I'll let it take up this entire bottom area since I don't have a lot of other photos for this week. So I was just playing around with all of the other supplies I have out. I have a 3x4 card behind there that says the best part of today, and I really wanted to use that. It doesn't end up making it on the spread. It just didn't quite work out by the time I get everything lined up. But I do really love it, so I'm going to have to keep that at hand and use it sometime soon. So I had all of these scraps, like I said, from my little scrap bin, and I realized a few of them actually fit the width of these columns pretty well, so I started with those and just laid a few of them down. I decided to switch out the rainbow card that I had, or the rainbow paper that is, for this other striped one. The other one felt just a little too heavy over there, and the photos are very light. So I decided that this striped one with the white stripes intermixed with the rainbow stripes would work better, and that's the one I'm going to end up using there. And I decided also this week that I wanted to bring down my title. So normally I have it up in the top left corner, but at this point I'm thinking I'm going to move it down into the column there on the left-hand side. But because I know I have those pink alphas to do it, I needed something a bit lighter than that rainbow paper to put it on. So I grabbed that 3x4 card with the butterflies, and it has just some really thin rainbow stripes on it. So I thought it would coordinate really well with the diagonal stripe paper, but would make my title stand out enough that you'd be able to read it. So I cut that down and made it just a little square at the top of that diagonal stripe paper. And that is where I'm going to end up putting my title. But right now I'm still just playing around with supplies. I, for some reason, struggle getting the width right when I'm trimming it. It's just under 2 inches, the columns are, and I seem to always get it a little bit wrong. So I'm bringing out my ruler, trying to measure everything, trying to get it the right size. They're still not perfect, but that's okay. I got it close enough, close enough to make it fit in the square and not at least bump into the photos that are next to it. So I'm just kind of trimming everything down that I think I want to use and placing things, trying to distribute the colors across the page as well to make sure that it feels balanced. So I'm definitely needing to add more of that yellow in some places. So I'm looking for other things I can add. I need more of that lighter teal blue as well, so I grabbed a little scrap of that. And then I don't want to forget about the stamps. I really do want to include a few of the stamps on this spread, so I'm trying to keep that in mind as well. And this is kind of when I decide, okay, maybe I need to not make this quite as big as I thought I was going to give myself a little bit more space to add some journaling. When I had all of those layers piled up behind my photo, it didn't leave a lot of space to add any sort of journaling, and I definitely wanted to write about this. So I'm going to condense those layers down a little bit and add them just to the left-hand side of the right side of this page. So just in those kind of bottom coordinates, that's not the word I'm looking for. Quadrant, that's the word I'm looking for. The bottom left quadrant of that side of the page. And then I can stamp above it and I can do my journaling off to the right side. So I did add a lot of those same papers I had behind it, but just not as thick of a border around it. And that you can see why this best part of Today card didn't end up fitting. Okay, so before I glue that down, I want to add this stamp that says awesome, and that way I can kind of butt the layers of behind my photo right up to that without them getting in the way of the stamping. So then I can go ahead and glue that down and work on the rest of the pieces on my page. So I'm pretty happy with where things are, so I can start gluing things down so that they don't move around on me quite as much, and then I can kind of work with the spaces that are still there and try and fill those in with some of the other supplies that I've pulled out for this spread. So once I get all of these glued down, then I can deal with the remaining spaces. So this week I have, I think, only 2 photos that I actually posted online, not counting the creative team photo. 2 are of some kind of more artsy pieces that I had worked on. This is something that I've really been wanting to do lately, and it's something I don't take the time to do because I'm always trying to work on other projects that I've already started, but it really is therapeutic for me, and I'm not an artist. I don't consider myself an artist, but I really love the act of creating art. So just getting out some little inexpensive canvases or some watercolor paper and playing with my supplies, my watercolors, my acrylics, some pens, whatever else I can find, some vintage paper even, there are some collages on those pages, and just playing. So that's what I was doing this week when I had some downtime. We left for Cancun on the 8th, so those photos were taken on the 5th, I believe. So it was kind of a stress relief for me this week as we were preparing to go. Jesse was out of town, and I was trying to get everything ready on my own, and I needed that downtime to kind of ground myself a little bit. So it was nice to play around. I have been trying to learn some new techniques, which is why that learning new things die cut was perfect for this spread. I also used one that says be curious, and I'll also use one that says play. I thought all of that really worked well for talking about playing with art supplies in a more artistic way, not for scrapbooking. I didn't add photos or journaling or anything to these. They were just for the sake of creating art. So I'm going through this bunch of die cuts that I've pulled out from previous kits, and I'm just kind of playing around, seeing what might work on the page. I do have several hearts up in the kind of top right corner. I also have pulled out a bunch of stars, and I'm going to choose between those two. It's not a hard and fast rule for me, but I generally like to stick to one or the other. I sometimes mix them, and that's fine. But usually I try and stick to either hearts or stars as kind of the filler embellishment on my pages. I'm going to end up going with the stars on this one just because I really love those vellum stars, the multicolored kind of graduated vellum stars that were from a recent Citrus Twist kit, and I really want to use those. So I'm going to end up going with those. I'll put the hearts back for another time. And now I'm just kind of playing around with where everything is going to go. I also really like this tag that I'm about to add to the bottom right corner. It was from an older Citrus Twist kit, and I thought it just worked really well. It was kind of about being imperfect and dealing with imperfection and how that's part of the process, I think. I can't remember exactly what it says. Something along those lines, I believe. So I thought that really worked well. So I'm going to add it there. I needed something behind it. I wanted to add more pink, so I added that pink paper behind it. And then I added a little tab to the pink polka dot square. That was just to bring in some more yellow. And then I'm going to add my title before I forget to do so, and so I can make sure to get that on there, and I can deal with the distribution of color after that. So I'm just going to spell out week, and then there are numbers on this set, but it felt a little imbalanced to have just the number 6 below week, and it didn't fit across, so I'm going to end up spelling out the word 6, and that is going to be my title for this spread. I did consider adding the month somewhere, but I don't end up doing so. I couldn't figure out a good way to do it. I couldn't find a good spot for it. I'll know when I'm flipping through this album that this is February just by the month or the weeks before and after. So it's not a big deal to me that I don't have the actual month on this spread. So now I'm just gluing down all the rest of the things that I've pulled out, trying to work out exactly where they're going to go. And I really like that learning new things, die cut, kind of overlapping the photo and the card next to it. And then I kind of did the same thing with the Be Curious. I just glued down, I kind of put it over the line so that it kind of mimicked that same look. And then I added another gray one that says Noteworthy above where my journaling is going to go at the bottom right corner of the left side. And then that's my little triangle of gray. And then I'm just playing with these stars to get a good distribution of color. I didn't like that pink one too close to the pink title, so I switched it with the darker purple and teal one, and that meant I needed the smaller kind of yellow and pink one up at the top, and I could move the other two in the places where they are now, and that's where they're going to end up staying once I glue them down. I'm going to bring out my little Xyron sticker maker to glue those down because they are vellum, and I don't want the adhesive to show through. I'm playing with these they're kind of vellum, I guess, stickers. They're little phrase stickers, but they are kind of a vellum consistency. I'm going to sprinkle a couple of those around. I liked how they kind of mimic the vellum of the stars and that they were in all the colors that I'm using on this spread, so I could just kind of spread the colors around and add them to my little phrase bits on the page. And then I remembered that I had pulled out these puffy stars that are also multicolored. They are in the same colors as the other elements I have on the page. And here's my Xyron. I'm just running those little vellum pieces through there to get them covered in adhesive on the back so I can stick them down. And then I'll add those smaller star puffy stickers around them to create little clusters of stars on my page. And then I'm going to come back here in a minute with some other ones as well, just to kind of fill in some of the other blank spaces, I believe. And then you can see I'm leaving places for my journaling right now. I'm going to actually end up journaling off camera. I just honestly wasn't in the mood to write anything when I made this spread, so I decided to wait and come back and do it when I felt like I could really do it justice and write down everything I wanted to say. If I'm not in the mood to do my journaling, it'll end up being just like 2 lines that don't really mean anything to me. It'll just be like the facts, you know, I did this on this day, and that'll be it. So I know it's best to give myself some time and come back to it and add the journaling when I'm really ready to do so and can give it the time it deserves. So I had played around with this play die cut. Didn't mean to be punny there, but I had moved it around a little bit, and I finally ended up adding it here. I like it over the top of the pink, and I made it kind of wonky so it overhung that box in different areas. And I'm going to add one more little vellum piece there to the bottom of that tag. And then I think I'm going to grab, I had gotten nail polish always. Whenever my nails are polished, it gets on my project. So I just used a little sand eraser to get that off. And then I'm going to add these enamel shapes. So I had this little pack. It's quite old. From an older Citrus Twist kit of enamel shapes, and there are some stars on there as well. So I'm going to add a few of those in, I think, 3 different places, little clusters of 3, and then that will be just about it. So when I go in to do my journaling, I do add some doodly bits just because I cannot help myself. I have to add the doodle bits on these pages, so you'll see that in the close-up photos here in just a minute. So I hope that you have enjoyed this process. I will link all my previous creativity journal spreads down below. The very first one talks about this album a bit more, why I'm doing it, and the supplies that I'm using. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And yeah, I hope you found some inspiration. I hope that you are inspired to work on your own projects after watching this. And if you have any questions about anything I've used or said, please feel free to leave those in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you back here soon.